everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on volume 11 of my journey through the Attack on Titan manga, and man, I loved last volume. I feel like there are a lot of volumes that are checkpoints throughout the series of the moments you really need to get to. And while I agree that volume 9 had some really great moments or volume 8 had some great moments in season 1's content, volume 10, the whole thing with Soldier through Warrior, everything with Krista and Ymir, I've got a couple comments I want to talk about in relation to all of that, but such a good volume. Oh, just my heart was so full watching and reading that volume. It was wonderful. So we're dead set into season 2's content right now. We are like at the halfway point of season 2, if you can believe it. It's striking me how short season 2 is now compared to season 1 and compared to seasons 3 and 4. Season 2 is such a tiny season. But I feel that it is setting up, as we're seeing with the manga, it's very easy to overlook season 2 because everybody's like, oh, there's the warrior moment and then that's it, right? But there's so much with season 2 that is setting up not only character development for Eren, but the themes of the story, right? So we'll talk about the children of the forest and all that, but just knowing we still have to get to Hannes, we still have to get to Eren making his claim and using the coordinate powers. Like, season 2, I feel like, is somewhat underestimated because everybody's like, oh, it was just, 10 or 12 episodes and then we were done. And then we moved on to, like, the big players, which was seasons 3 and seasons 4. And I'm going back through this season, I'm like, no, there is so much setup here that is so critical to the plot and understanding these characters and their decisions that you really can't overlook it. So I'm glad that Wit Studio went ahead and just kept this a 12 episode season, let it be its thing, and then dived into season 3 and all its madness, right? I'm really happy with that. So, but I do want to talk about a couple things. Christopher Peterson had the shorter of the two comments that I wanted to talk about. And we were talking about the abilities of the Titans. And that is, Attack on Titan is not perfect. It is an amazing series. Isayama is an amazing storyteller, and I love it for it. I love how deep these characters and the themes run. And you can tell that what Isayama is really great at is creating a story where the themes, they're not preachy, but they're so deep and layered that you just keep peeling it back and finding more and more. Like rereading the manga, I'm getting so much more out of it than just the first time I watched the anime. And I went on like 2-hour tangents in some of those episodes, sometimes 3 hours. And yet I'm finding things now that I still hadn't even seen back then. So that's very impressive, right? Very impressive. But one thing we did talk about is that no series is perfect. And one thing that I and Christopher Peterson, we both have noted, is that the abilities of the Titans are never really concrete. They're never really concrete. It's like Isayama explains them enough to use them, but I think what Isayama does is very clever because Isayama could have run into the shonen trope of, I'm going to explain how my power works, and this is how, and a lot of shonen anime, if you watch it or if you read it, they go into these big lengthy discussions of how the powers work and like all the abilities and everything. And while that is fun, and I enjoy that in a lot of series, what it can do is it can back you into a corner where sometimes as a character, the character has explained their power, but then what happens if the plot calls for that power to do something and suddenly it can't? The writer has to figure out, okay, how am I going to get out of this plot hole? How am I going to get out of this corner? And find a way to make it work. Isayama is really clever in that they explain just enough to make sense of how the power is used, but he never over explains and he never concretely defines. So when it's convenient, it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel like a contrivance. And that is something that is very clever from a writer standpoint. Like it's very restrained, and that restraint allows him to get away with it. Because yeah, we were talking in the comic, Christopher Peterson and I were, and it was like, well, Reiner does that thing where we're going to see in season 3 where his consciousness goes into the body. That's never touched on ever again. And Annie's Crystallis pod thing, we kind of see it with the Warhammer, but it's never really touched on again. And then Eren does something where he makes the hardening work better, but we never touch on it again. So it's like these powers aren't really fully defined, but I think Isayama plays into the mystery of the Titans where ourselves as the audience, as well as the characters in the story, don't exactly know how the powers work either. Nobody has a concrete understanding of how the Titans came to be, what they do, what the founder is. Like, nobody really has a full concrete understanding of it all. So that's really clever on Isayama's part, because it allows him to insert these moments of like surprise with the abilities that you didn't know were there. And it's justified because, well, they're not really explained. So it's very clever. It's, if you write or if you analyze literature, you'll notice it and you're like, you're a clever son of a gun, Isayama. I see what you're doing. And I can't fault him for it, because as a writer, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, why would I want to back myself into a corner when I have all of these options available I can keep open at my disposal? So we talked about that, and I thought that was really, really interesting. And then Daki or Dasi, however you pronounce your name, they had a treasure trove of comments. And so I didn't even write notes. I just pulled up the comment. I'm like, I might as well just read straight from the comment, because I thought it was really, really interesting. And the main thing is the idea of what I find most fascinating about their comment is the connection and contrast between Eren and Mr. Browse. Because they are two characters who view the forest and everything completely different. And I agree with Dasi's comments, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase it here. But essentially, back in chapter 27, Sasha tells Mikasa, if you underestimate the forest, you'll die. And then when after her death, Mr. Browse says, I think Sasha got killed because she wandered too long in that forest and underestimated just how powerful and how much of a hold it could have. Right? And so interestingly, Dasi says it's interesting how it was noted that Sasha's words about not wanting to make any concessions in her life for outsiders is very reminiscent of Eren's mindset. And we talked about that in the comment. Mr. Browse's line saying that living in the world is a privilege is almost directly in contrast with Eren's ideology that the outside world is a birthright. I love that line. That's such a great point to make, because yes, Mr. Browse is like, you know, the world is a privilege. We are not owed anything. We are not owed anything, so we should just help each other to make the world a better place to live in. And Eren's like, no, this world is our birthright. Manifest destiny, you know, is kind of what it's suggesting, right? Which is such a crazy thing. Eren believes, and I'm quoting Dasi, Eren believes that he doesn't owe the world anything, and he shouldn't have to make concessions of his freedom for other people. Whereas Mr. Browse is like, no, we should help other people, and it's okay to be self-sacrificing if it's for the better good of others. And I like that he notes that Eren would probably see Mr. Browse's mentality as cowardly and unacceptable in the same way he looked down on people who were satisfied with the status quo within the walls at the start of the series. But I would argue with that. Mr. Browse isn't happy. He's not satisfied with the status quo. Sasha was the one that wanted the status quo to stay the same. She's like, well, it's always been this way. Why do we have to change for others? She was the one satisfied with the status quo. And Mr. Browse is like, no, we can change and make concessions for others. That's just progressing and making the world better. Whereas Eren would view that as not an acceptable answer. So I feel like that will tie. And again, when we get to season 4, it's going to be a whole... I just imagine now the manga is going to be like, it's going to be a ridiculous amount of discussion with the manga at that point. But especially as we get closer to where I left off with it, with the anime. But what I find interesting is that at the time when I was making arguments, because I'm like Team Browse. Like, I'm Team Arthur Browse. I'm like Team him, because I agree with the whole Children of the Forest thing so much, right? And so I remember at the time in the anime, a lot of people who were siding more with Eren was kind of making arguments about how Mr. Browse's expectations aren't realistic. And my whole thing was, yeah, they're not realistic, but at the same time, that doesn't make them, like Nikolai says, not worth trying. You know, just because you have this cynical or nihilistic view doesn't mean it's not worth trying to make the world better, even if you think that you're not going to make a difference. Every little tiny bit does make a difference. And that's kind of what Mr. Browse's one line to Sasha impacts things later on. His one line to Gabby impacts things later on. Like, you create a domino effect by just the slightest little thing that you do. And so even if it seems insignificant at the time, it can have ripple effects and ramifications later on that have a major giant impact. So that was kind of my argument at the time. And I like that Dasi points out that it's being set up way back here, that same ideology. And again, Eren is not around to hear that argument of Mr. Browse's. But then they talk about Ymir and Krista and their interaction and the dynamic of Ymir. Ymir seems like a selfish person, but she's actually selfless. And Krista seems like a selfless person, but she's actually selfish. and talking about the contrast between the two of them and how Krista puts on this fake persona to try to appease others, whereas Ymir's like, screw y'all, I'm gonna be myself and live my life the way I want to for myself and have pride in who I am. And Dossie had a really, really cool comment. If you're on Patreon, you can see their comment for volume 9. It's really, really good. But just talking about the idea of how Ymir, she tells Sasha, she's like, don't put on that accent and be somebody that you're not, because she, from her own experience, knows what that's like. And I feel like in the next couple of volumes, we're going to get into Ymir's backstory, and that's going to come out even more, right? That she's like, you should be who you are. And whereas Krista is like, oh, you can just hide your accent and pretend to be somebody else because that's coming from her own experience. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And then finally with Dossie's comment is the idea that Eren keeps putting all this pressure keeps mounting on Eren because of his Titan powers, that he is essentially Parady's only hope. And therefore he has no other choice but to succeed and no other option. And just like the Boulder with Trost, etc. And so what is interesting is that Eren, he has so little self-worth outside of his actions. It's shown to us in the manga that he believes that he can only prove his worth by what he's able to accomplish. And I like Dossie's point is that it goes back to Hannes telling Eren that he couldn't save his mom because he wasn't strong enough. And we know as the audience, there's so many other factors to that. There's so much other layers to that than just that one moment. But that was Eren as a child, and it imprinted on him the idea that he has to be strong to save others, and he has to be able to be successful to save others, and failure is not an option. Otherwise, the people he loves, he could lose. And that's a big thing, right? That's a big surmountable pressure. And so what's interesting is that Eren, he believes that if he's not able to succeed or show his self-worth through his actions, then he has none. And so that goes back to Mikasa and him driving her away, because he's like, well, there's no way she could like me for who I am. It's got to be the Ackerman blood, or it's got to be, her just wanting to protect me, that she can't possibly just like me because I'm who I am. When we as the audience, as we've seen from him giving her the scarf, she liked him because of that little action of kindness that he gave her and the security that he gave her. It wasn't the fact that he was successful or whatever. I mean, Eren didn't succeed. In the end, Mikasa was the one that saved them both. It wasn't Eren that was successful in that moment. Yeah, he killed the one guy, but she was the one that killed the other one and saved them. She didn't like Eren because he was successful. She liked him because of who he was. And Eren just, Baka cannot get that through his brain. And I can't wait till the moment where Zeke's just like, really? You don't get it? I'm so ready for that moment in the manga where Zeke's like, I think she just likes you for you, man. I think, bro, you might need to reevaluate that. And Eren's like, I just don't understand. What a baka. But yeah, speaking of Mikasa, Dossie also pointed out that it's kind of hilarious that Mikasa is overly attached to Eren, and Levi calls her out on it when he's kind of overly attached to Erwin. It's just like pot calling the kettle black. Very, very, very much. And then, Ymir flunking her test results to get Krista in the top 10 is very similar to Marcel bragging on Reiner to get him to be chosen as the warrior over Porco. So I like that Dossie said maybe the idea of influencing and affecting results to protect their loved one is a Jaw Titan trait. So now we just have to see if Falco does the same thing. If that's the case. If Falco does the same thing, then we'll know, right? And then, yes, Ymir gives herself away in more than one way, not only by being able to read the can, but also the can is herring, which is a fish, and how would parody people know about fish? So yeah, lots of fun stuff discussed with volumes 9 and 10. It's so cool to see all these layers. And Isayama, I fully believe Isayama knows what he's doing. I believe he's had this skeletal framework set up from the beginning and probably knew how he wanted to end it. It's just now it's polishing, filling in the gaps, developing the characters, connecting everything together. But I fully believe, especially with these earlier volumes, he knew what he was doing. He knew. He just, the story obviously develops and grows as you go, and you make decisions that you might change your mind on things, but the foundation, the founding framework is all there. And that's freaking cool. So I love that. That's really awesome. Love it a lot. But yeah, we're not going to waste any more time, y'all. I am super excited for this volume. The cover, it's so great. But yeah, let's go ahead and start this. I've talked for 15 minutes. We're going to start volume 11 of Attack on Titan here in 3, 2, 1. And look at Reiner and Eren, right? First, Eren faces Annie, the blonde Titan, and now he's facing Reiner. It's like Reiner and his blondes, Eren and his blondes, right? You got Historia, Annie, Reiner, Armin. Mikasa's the only one he doesn't have to worry about. But yeah, this is it's a really good volume. I love the action and dynamic of it, and it doesn't give anything away of what's going to happen, because you ended volume 10 with Eren seemingly going to go up against Reiner, so it gives you no spoilers of what could possibly happen. The Armored Titan. Strike, throw, and submit. The Hunters and Opening. Yeah! You know what? Of all of the rules of 8 that I've ever had, because I always do the rule of 8, which is the 8th episode of the season is always like one of the best ones of the season. I will say this season 2 of Attack on Titan is the only exception to that rule. Not that episode 8 of season 2 is bad. It's not. There's arguably no bad episodes of Attack on Titan. But I was a little underwhelmed with episode 8 of Attack on Titan season 2. I was like, oh, this is a good episode, but it wasn't anything revolutionary. And then episode 9 gets into like all the craziness. And I was like, okay. So it was the only time I ever felt that rule didn't quite apply. But Isayama, it's the rule of 5 with Isayama. The rule of 5 and 6 is the rules of Isayama. Like, you know, in that situation, it's one of those moments where you're like, oh no, episodes 5 and 6 of the seasons are going to be the one to watch, right? So yeah, but all right. Well, now Mike is gone. Still left with Marco. I love that Ymir is just kind of inserted, like right below you see Ymir in Titan form right next to her face to kind of show her. And oh, cool, we have Eren in his Titan form. And then we have Annie in her Titan form, Reiner in his Titan form. What's kind of fascinating is you have Armin, and then under him Bertholdt, and then under him the Colossus Titan. So is that foreshadowing that Isayama was trying to tell us that Armin's going to take over Bertholdt and the Colossus Titan? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I'm glad Jean's back in the character thing. Good deal. All right. The Armored Titan. Ooh, just fun stuff, right? And then Eren. And then yeah, Bertholdt with his noodly arms grabbing Ymir. I always think of him with like the rib cage attached to the wall is the creepiest thing. It's so disturbing. That's how he holds onto the wall, is like he's doing like a Superman pose and his rib cage just connecting to the wall. It's so disturbing, right? And Mikasa, that hesitation she had. Why couldn't I attack Reiner and Bertholdt? And it was because they were looking, it's because they had that moment of fear in their face and she couldn't do it. Which, you know, is rather interesting, because what's fascinating about that is that Mikasa, as an Ackerman, the argument is that whenever there's true danger, she is able to go into action to save Eren. And if this were true danger, she would be able to instantly kill them. But the funny thing is that she doesn't kill Reiner and Bertholdt. She hesitates, which kind of shows you in a little sense that maybe Eren wasn't in true danger. Like, it wasn't a life or death thing. They were just going to take him away. But I find that fascinating that she never hesitates to protect Eren. But here, she did. And there's two things you can take with that. One, the Ackerman blood theory that Eren tells her, that he's like, oh, you'll protect me no matter what, is maybe complicated by this. But also the fact that she didn't really believe maybe that Reiner and Bertholdt were truly evil in that moment, that there was something else to them because she knew them. I think that's fascinating. I think it is. But she said this is the last chance, we won't get another one. And she's wrong. They do get another chance, but doesn't quite come as easy as you would like. I like that shot of Bertholdt like half formed there. And then God, just him being just with all the steam, get off the wall. I like that Hanji immediately notices like the steam. She's like, get off or you're gonna get air fried, right? And then, oh, what a good shot. Ooh, Isayama. I can already see Isayama's style is changing and evolving and getting more crisper and more detailed. It's really cool that we're only 11 volumes in and you can already tell that change. It's getting me excited for the series to come, right? Because yeah, the way that he draws people, I mean, Bertholdt still has the noodly arms, but the way that he draws people is already more detailed and anatomically dynamic than it was at the start of the series. So that's really cool. It's neat to see an artist progress as they keep drawing, right? And then poor Ymir. Oh, and then he grabbed the one guy and he grabbed Ymir. Ah, no. I like Armin going Bertholdt. Which is so fascinating because Armin's going to be the one to eat him. He's almost seems horrified that Bertholdt seemingly ate Ymir when he's going to be the one eating Bertholdt later. That's fascinating. You're facing humanity's greatest enemy. I mean, what's kind of funny about it is, remember back when we were fighting one Colossus Titan and that seemed like enough? Now we have thousands and thousands and thousands of them in the rumbling. I remember how hard it was to face one. But what's fascinating is it's Bertholdt's a warrior, so there's like a consciousness and an evolved strategy to him fighting as the Colossus Titan. Whereas the ones from the rumbling, they seem, now granted, I've not watched season 4, part 3, act 1 to know at this point how they will manage in a fight. But as of right now, they seem very like ants. They don't really seem to have a consciousness of their own. So maybe they will prove to be as difficult of a task to handle than Bertholdt. But Bertholdt was pretty... It's interesting to look back and realize how much of a threat Bertholdt was. And Armin doesn't really, because Armin's so pacifist, he doesn't really ever get to this extent that Bertholdt does. We haven't seen Armin fight like this in the series yet. I can't see Armin transforming in the final part into the Colossus Titan because at that point, you're just one of thousands. What difference are you going to make? I feel like Armin's point in staying human is going to be, I feel like it'd be more symbolic for Armin to stay human, to talk to Eren while he's in Titan form. I feel it's more symbolic that way. But again, I have no clue what to expect, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, compared to the smaller Titans we normally take on, we've got this. And that's when Bertholdt decides to use the steam. Ah, that expression. I love the big question mark, exclamation point. And he just uses the steam to get them to back up. Yep. Somebody get me water. He's attacking. He's using the steam to protect himself. And then you can't try and capture them any longer. Don't hesitate. And then they're going back after the armored Titan. And then, yeah, I like Krista and Connie are the ones trying to get them. And, oh, poor Krista. She's got, like, tears in her eyes. She's like, please try to help Ymir. And then Connie, he doesn't realize that... I forgot about this. He doesn't realize it's Reiner and Bertholdt. Oh, man. The similarities between Connie and Reiner are fascinating because Connie almost seems to go through that act of denial by repressing that memory like Reiner does, right? Oh, no! Damn! We just cut to Eren getting massacred! What? Damn! Reiner just, like, you could see him getting pushed back. Oh, that piece of shit. Eren doesn't like to lose. Definitely not. I love the slow zoom in on the eyeballs. And then you try to look and it's Eren, like, looking that way. He went on about being a soldier and responsibility. All that time in hand-to-hand training, was he going easy on me? I don't know, because again, Eren doesn't understand that Reiner had the two sides to him, right? If you do it right, any training will one day be of use to humanity. You were talented. You could stay calm and see the big picture in any situation. You put your comrades ahead of yourself. I can't believe that I wish that one day I could be as strong as you. Oh my God. Oh, that's a thing. Oh man. Oh, I kind of want that to come full circle now because honestly, after this moment, wow, what's kind of fascinating about this is that Eren viewed Reiner as such a strong person who was capable of doing anything and stayed calm and collected. And Eren didn't know all of the inner turmoil and the history that was brewing inside of Reiner this entire time. And so he feels betrayed by Reiner. And then Eren decides at this point that he's like, I am so much stronger than you. You're not who I thought you were. And you're so much weaker than I thought you were. And I'll just have to be stronger than you. And the funny thing is, he kind of does it. Eren does, on the outside, from that moment on, present himself as stronger, especially in season 4. I'm thinking literally of season 4, part 2 and part 1. And Eren just comes across later on as just cold. And when he confronts Reiner during Declaration of War, he seems like he's finally come full circle with this statement, like, I am definitely stronger than you. I can't believe I one day wanted to be as strong as you. Because at that point, during Declaration of War, Reiner's at his lowest point. Reiner is where Eren is. So it makes this complete reversal. And by the time we get to Declaration of War, moving on, Reiner is in such a pit of despair about himself that he's like, he's like, Eren's so strong. Why couldn't I be as strong? Why can't I be as strong and convicted as him? But the funny thing about it all is again, Reiner and Eren are the same person. And Eren realizes after the basement that him and Reiner are the same. He's like, we both project ourselves as being strong and calm and collected and being leaders and being people that our own nations can count on. But under the surface, we are complex, we are traumatized, we are ruined and in despair, and we're just faking it till we make it. So Eren realizes that him and Reiner are the same, which is a great callback to this moment. But Reiner hasn't fully figured out what Eren meant by that. I think by the end of season 4, part 2, I don't know if Reiner has fully realized what Eren was meaning. And Eren's like, no, I'm the same as you. We both try to act tough, but we're really not under the surface. And I don't think by where I'm at in the story, Reiner has come to that realization of what Eren meant by that. That Eren is just like Reiner in terms of being traumatized and trying to fake it. So maybe in season 4, part 3, act 1, and act 2, Reiner will confront Eren and be like, I know what you mean now. I get what you were saying back then. Yeah, we are both the same. We are both faking it, but whatever that conversation leads to. But that's so fascinating, right? And then Mikasa trying to fight Eren. Oh, that look of Eren's where he's like, I don't know what kind of look you have on your face right now. And again, it's Eren watching Mikasa fight Reiner and Eren being perhaps worried about Mikasa and that she's going to get hurt. You two really are pieces of shit. I doubt anyone in human history has done anything as terrible as what you've done. Well, I remember at this point in the story, in the episode, I was like, well, we don't know. We don't know. And now looking back, it's like, oh my God, it's like, Eren, for you to say this now when what you are about to do in season 4, part 2 is going to be worse, is just like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And then Dinah, with those tiny little arms. I have to get rid of you. You can't be allowed to exist. What are you thinking? You make me sick just thinking about that righteous expression always on your face. And it's like, Eren, you have the same righteous expression in season 4, part 2. Oh my God, you just, yeah. It's so fascinating to see Eren's mindset at this point, and then to see where he gets to and the self-realization. I really, again, I'm loving Eren more in the manga than I have in the anime because we're getting to really see Eren on the inside and what he's thinking, and the use of visuals that Isayama provides helps to paint a much better picture of Eren's psyche. And Eren being this vulnerable at this point in the manga, it adds so much to his character and it helps to explain him so much more than I feel like the anime did. But yeah, but the idea that Eren doesn't understand Reiner. He doesn't understand him. And that lack of understanding leads to fear of, why can't I understand him? And what are you thinking? I can't understand you, so you make me sick. Like, Eren is a perfect representation of someone who doesn't understand the other side. And so thus he feels like they have to go. For some reason I have Savages by Pocahontas playing in my head right now, because I'm thinking like Eren is Ratcliffe right now, being like, they're different from us, and so they can't be trusted. It's like, that's literally what this song is. I'm like, Eren's like, we must sound the drums of war. Like, Eren is literally Pocahontas Savages with Reiner, Annie, and Bertholdt right now, because he believes that we don't understand them, so let's just get rid of them. And we know how problematic that mindset is, right? It makes me want to vomit. What is this pose? What is this pose of Eren like lifting himself up? That's like, makes me want to vomit. I love you, Isayama, but that pose is meme worthy. That is ridiculous. And Reiner's tight little Titan booty. You giant pest. I'll exterminate you right here. Yeah, Eren's, at this point in the story, Eren's go-to is, if I don't understand you, I don't want to understand you, I'll just get rid of you, and then I want to deal with you. And that's problematic. And then Reiner's like, nope, you definitely don't understand me, so bye. I do like at this point that Eren is not the Zen mode fleshed out character that he gets by the time the basement comes around. He still is very flawed. And Eren continues to be flawed, but at this point, it's easy to react. It's easy for us, the audience, to react kind of like Eren does, because we don't understand the situation. And it's only after the basement that we look back and go, oh, yeah, maybe we thought a little bit before the gun there. Strike, throw, submit. Interesting. I'm always welcoming more Annie and Eren content. Let me see here what we got here. Oh, I love it. We get more Annie stuff. I can't match you for brute strength, and you're a man, right? Shouldn't you be more careful with this delicate body of mine? And Eren's like, don't make me laugh. Why do I keep ending up on my back if I'm no match for your strength? And she's like, well, it's the techniques that I use. I'm not using strength to throw you. They're techniques used to defend against an opponent who's stronger than them. You need to learn them. And that's when she does the hands up. Yep, I love it. I'm all for more Annie and Eren moments. Do you really want to learn? And then, Reiner, why'd you fall on us? Oh, and then there's Mikasa telling Annie to teach her that move. Oh, okay, so maybe, are we getting in this? Oh, we are! Good! Yay! I back when we had the other flashback, I'm like, where's the Annie and Mikasa moment? We're getting it here. I'd forgotten it was at this point. I'm interested to know if they work on beasts. For Annie to call Mikasa a beast is amazing. I love Sasha. It's a dream match. And I like that Marco's like, do you think Annie can do it? And John's like, I'm betting everything on Mikasa. Oh my gosh. I love it. And then what about you, Eren? Who will it be? Who was it? Was it Mikasa or was it Annie? We don't know. Who ended up winning that fight? Why am I thinking back to that day? Is this what's like for your life to flash before your eyes? No, I feel like the Attack Titan would show you a lot more than that. Oh my god, but that smack. Oh, Reiner. But yeah, so we don't end up getting to know who won. Boo. Either way, it feels awful. Oh, I love that shot. Not only of Eren's like creepy eyes in that moment, but the idea, like, just like the blood and everything coming off the Titan, it's so creepy. And then Reiner just looming over him. That's so good, Isayama. Yes. Oh my god. Going hand to hand with him won't do any good. I like that Armin's trying to like lure him back. You can't fight him, Eren. Like, come on. Yeah, I love the idea that Eren definitely does not want to give up and die, because he's like, that would feel awful. And then he goes, oh my god, is this where he uses Annie's move? Yes! Yay! Yay! Look at him. Oh, again, I love that. I love them just using the move, and Isayama can draw the action shots so well there. Awesome. The technique that Annie used. Of course, Armin remembers the technique that Annie used. Of course he does. I have no idea why you two are doing all of this. But looking back on it, you made a lot of bad decisions. Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to argue with that. And one of them was teaching me how to fight like this. Yeah, right. I mean, the bad decisions go back way further than this. Submissions work on him. And then, yeah, he tries to crack open the faceplate. Oh, man, and break the arm and everything. You're not getting away so easy. I love the movement in these shots. Like, Isayama does such a great job of doing the movement and everything. It's great. I feel like Mikasa's shouting for Eren right now to try to get his attention. I feel like that's where a lot of people, like, we were talking about this in the comments on YouTube with her character in Wit Studio, because I do believe Mikasa and Eren are two of the characters that, going back and rereading this manga so far, they're so much more fleshed out. But I feel like everybody gives Mikasa a really hard time because of her shouting for Eren, when everybody else in the scene is shouting for Eren too. But I feel like Wit really focused in on that in the anime, and I don't know. There's just a lot of nuances in her expressions and just little micro things that Isayama does with her so far that Wit didn't do. And I don't know if Wit just didn't get it, if they didn't see the same thing that we the readers see, or what it was, but it's unfortunate because I like her character a lot more in the manga. And then Armin's like, can you hear me? Run, get out of here. Their goal's to kidnap you. Reiner isn't just going to let him get away. And then I like that they grab Mikasa and Armin and get him out of there. And then they said, you're making the right decision. All right. Running from Reiner is no easy task. I love that Hanji, is this the moment where he, like, gets Hanji to be, like, all fangirly? I think it is. She's like, can you destroy the armored titan's legs using one of those holds? Our blades won't work on him, but you could use your head and think whatever works best. And I love he nods and she blushes. Yeah. Okay, that is one thing the anime does better, is the anime being like, Hanji being like, oh my god, he nodded to me in Titan form. Like, just, I that was one moment in the anime I love with Hanji, because they were like, oh my god, great. And then, yeah, he breaks out of the armor so he can grab Eren and tackle him into the wall. Get his legs. Oh, man. Oh, these action shots. Oh, I imagine reading this in the manga in real time would have been really, really cool. Why can he suddenly move so fast? Yeah, because he took the armor off. That was weighing him down. Yep. And then that's when Hanji makes the note about the armor. Taking it off, it makes you more vulnerable to be stabbed in those places, but he knows that Eren's not going to do that, so that's why he took them off to begin with. He's like, oh man, I have more arms, so I have the advantage. Oh, Eren, sweet Eren. Pull his whole head off, yank the traitor out of there. I can win. I can beat Reiner. And that's when he gets him to the point where, where Bertholdt can fall on him. Yep. And that's when he shouts to Bertholdt. Because Bertholdt's starting to fizzle away as a skeleton. Oh, yeah! God, the nightmare shot. Yes. Because you can see him, like, already fizzling away. And that's when Armin looks up and notices. Okay, heads up, move. And the crazy thing is that Eren, he gets short-sighted in this moment. He doesn't see the full... The visual symbolism of Eren not seeing the full picture is so true to the entire story, right? Because Eren just doesn't see the full picture. He only sees the goal right in front of him without seeing what's going on around him. If that's not a representation of Eren's character, I don't know what is. Because, yeah, he spends this one moment being like, I have a goal. Get Reiner out of the Titan. And he's so laser focused on that goal, he doesn't see Bertholdt. He doesn't see everything else around him that's impacting and about to happen. And this one shot of Hanji being like, get out of there, and Armin and Mikasa going, and Eren, that expression being like, I'm so close to my goal. It's so emblematic of him as a whole, right? Ah! Oh my god! Ah! I will say, oh my god, that is terrifying. The anime may have made it a little bit scarier. Oh my god. And then Hannes. So we're going to backtrack with him and Historia and the others. Where's Eren? What's going on? And then, yep, the Colossal Titan. And I love that Hannes, that's such a great effect of him, like, looking at the Colossal Titan being like, why is that damn thing here? And his hands shaking, like him just remembering back to that day. And then, yep, the skeleton falls off the side of the wall and lands right on Eren. And Eren's just like, oh! And there we go. Meanwhile, in Trust... Oh, yeah. Love it. You'll get sick if you sleep up here. How much did you drink? Oh. I wouldn't mind being bedridden if it meant a fine young lady would be attending to me. Poor Pixis. They should be returning about now. Oh, man. And then Erwin showing up. Look at his, like, Dorito body. Look at that. It's like got the Dorito-shaped torso. We were one step short. Okay. We've been finally able to drag the military police out here to an area where we actually face Titans. And they have no freaking clue what to do. Yes. And then Jean's there. I forgot Jean was with them. I was like, he's in the character page. I was like, where's Jean been this whole time? I forgot that. That was one thing. Jean being with Levi and Erwin is such a very fascinating narrative choice. And I feel like Isayama only did that because he had nothing to do with Jean. I feel like Jean wasn't with Connie and Sasha and the others, so he didn't really have a connection to the plot with Ymir and Historia, so it wouldn't make sense for him to be there. And honestly, Eren and Mikasa and Armin had their moments facing Reiner in these chapters. So Jean really narratively had nothing to do. So Isayama's solution, again, Isayama is a very clever writer and he knows how to get around certain things. So it was very smart of Isayama to be like, I have nothing for Jean to do. He's a main character. We know he's smart. He would have something to do if he was actually there with them. So what can I do to get him out of the way? I'll have him stay behind with Erwin and Levi and Pastor Nick, and that will be my excuse. They are just there with handling, and Jean has a connection with wanting to be in the military police, so it thematically makes sense for him to get to see how the military police actually are and to see the setup and how flawed it is. So yeah, genius move to have him there. And he's like, and I love Levi, sorry I couldn't set you up with any Titans. There are plenty of them outside the walls. Why don't we face off against them? I love that Levi's just sitting there, like, taunting them, being like, oh, hey, bitches, how's it going? We found no holes or irregularities. 3 of those soldiers were Titans. Oh, Ymir's included in that. And Jean's like, who? Jean's like, what is this? And that's when Erwin's like, wait a second, don't freak out yet, Jean. We need to know what happened. By the time we joined the battle, it was over. And that's when we cut to Eren getting taken. And of course, Mikasa freaks out and is like, where is Eren, right? We don't know how serious your injuries are. And then she sees that he's gone. And yeah, I feel like people like over-exaggerate how they're like, whenever they say Mikasa, they're just like, Eren. But honestly, he's her family. And she was trying to protect him. And if we go back to Annie taking him in the forest and how riled up she was, Levi's not here to get her in check. So yeah, she's concerned. And that panel of her with the expression and like the little scar on her cheek, it looks very much like Levi. It's a very Levi expression. And her asking, where is he? And Armin's like, whoa, easy there. But I feel like she's justified in her actions and her thoughts there. Ymir and Eren were taken by Bertholdt and Reiner. The body evaporated the moment it hit the ground. And they couldn't, the pressure of it all allowed them to escape and take out Eren. Yep. Reiner was the only one that could withstand Bertholdt's force. Indeed. Right? And then the hot wind started to calm. Bertholdt had Ymir in his arms. Okay, yep, and he had the gear on and everything, leaving. He was wearing the vertical maneuvering equipment that belonged to the other soldier he ate. Ah, yeah, so he took the gear from him, and he jumped on Reiner's back and left. with Eren and Ymir. It's been 5 hours since then. Oh, that hurt on Mikasa's face. Ugh. And her expression. Did anyone go after him? No. I like that she instantly goes back to like Eren influencing Grisha mode where she's like, why not? And like her voice, the word bubble, why not? And Armin's like, there's no way to get horses over the wall. Like the logistics don't work out. I like that. I like in this moment that Armin is able to keep calm. When we see Armin lose his cool later on, this is a nice contrast to it. He's like, we can't get Eren back until the lifts arrive. We need to be ready, so check your injuries. And then Hanji and the others were severely injured, and they have all the burns on them. And that's when she, like, smacks her head. I hit my head hard. I'm fine. And that's the thing. It's just when Annie kidnapped Eren, we go back to this, I could go right after her and fight her with Levi. And I eventually got him back, but now 5 hours have passed, so she's worried about him. And that's when she gets the scarf and puts it back on. It's like a security blanket. The scarf is like a security blanket for her. And again, I think the headaches are just stress and trauma. I feel like the headaches are just anxiety and stress from like not being able to help him. I don't think it's like a blood response. I think it's just her being stressed and being like, oh my God, this person I love, I can't protect, and just getting freaked out about it, right? But I like that the idea that she uses a scarf like as a security to keep Eren close to her, and then later when she takes it off to be like, to try to distance herself from him. It's very interesting. Why does Eren always get so far away from us? Eren has always been running off on his own and leaving us behind. Whether it's of his own will or not, he always does it. I guess that's just his destiny. Well, Isayama, way to put that out there for us all. It's like, all I want is to be close to him. That's all. But. And I feel like that's God. If that's not, 10, 15 volumes from now, a big thing. Whether it's of his own will or not, there is a part of it. That's the funny thing about it. It is Eren's will, but it is also the will of the Attack Titan, so that's interesting. And it is his destiny, maybe. But it's so sad because Mikasa, that panel of her at the bottom with the scarf and the tears, she's like, I just want to be with him. Like, I don't care about destiny. I don't care about Titans. I don't care about anything. I love him and I want to be with him. So sad. And then Hannes here, have some limbus bread. And he's like, it's not bad, but it's not good. It's the same as always. You've always had to take care of the messes that little Brett got himself into. You're stuck with him for better or worse. So much has changed, but you're still doing the same thing you did as kids. And that's not going to change. They're still going to be trying to clean up his messes, even at the end of season 4, part 2. Yep, you're stuck with him for better or worse. And we just have to see how that all ends, right? There's a bit of a size difference between neighborhood bullies and Titans, right? But I like that Hannes is kind of like, no matter how big the enemies get, the same thing still remains. He's like, by the time you or a soldier stopped him, he'd be in shambles. Even though I never saw him win a fight, I never saw him admit defeat either. He's so tenacious that it even scared me from time to time. No matter how many times he fell, he got back up. That's who he is. Do you really think he'd let himself get carried off without a fight? He'd fight with everything he had, and he's only up against 2 guys. He'll keep giving them trouble until you or I get there. He's always been like that. Yeah. Yep. Eren is the most stubborn person in the world when it comes to he will not admit defeat or stop fighting. He's literally the Attack Titan. Like, he doesn't stop moving forward no matter what happens. And Hannes being like, yeah, that's just how and that's how he's always been throughout the entire series. That's the crazy thing is when you watch the anime, you think that Eren does develop, but he still also stays the same. He's always been like this. Like, that's just, it's Isayama saying this is just how Eren is from start to finish, right? And he's going to be there till you all catch back up with him, right? And he's like, I liked those days. If Eren were here, he might call them a time of false peace. But being a good-for-nothing drunk soldier was enough for me. I'd do anything to get those quiet, dull days back, no matter how long it takes. Because as long as you three aren't together, I'll never get those days back. Yeah, and so, oh man, this is just paralleling season 4, part 2, where they go to get Eren back. That's exactly what they're doing now. We're seeing Eren, only this time Eren wasn't taken away by Reiner and Bertholdt. He left on his own volition, but they're going back to get him. Yep. They're even riding on their horses up here. And Krista, it's best if you stay here. And Krista's like, no, I'm going after Ymir. And then Connie's like, I can't believe it. I won't believe Reiner and Bertholdt are enemies until I hear it straight from their own mouths. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that about Connie, because Connie's like, I'm not going to give up on them. Until they tell me that we're enemies, I'm not going to give up on them. I love that about Connie. That's actually, he's simple, but I love that about him. And everybody's like, Commander Erwin! Oh my God. And then Hanji's like, hey! Like, the map! Damn it, Hanji. Okay. I love that Hanji is like half burnt, like crawling to the map, and they're like, we're going to give you the info you need because that's my job. Oh my God. And then Erwin, we have until night. Erwin is such a larger than life figure, and you can instantly see how all of the troops and everyone get behind him because he's such a colossus protagonist at this point. And which is so funny because he could have been the Colossus Titan. It's so fascinating to see how much he leads the people around him. It's great. Mm-hmm. Great times. And then we have Eren waking up. Yes. Next to Ymir, who's growing her arm and leg back. And Reiner's like, oh, Eren, you're up. Like, it's no big deal. Like, hey, I know we just like nearly fought to the death back there, but no worries. Opening. And Reiner and Bertholdt just staring at him. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then him being like, oh yeah, his arms and legs were cut off so he couldn't do anything. I love Ymir saying, I guess today's a rough one for the both of us. Ymir's like, you win some, you lose some, am I right? And then Eren be like, why don't I have arms? And his little stubs. And Reiner's like, oh, sorry, I did that. And Eren being like, I was in a hurry. And while I bit your neck, I was panicking and I missed both your arms in the process. And the thing of it is Eren being like, so I lost. I was like, Eren's the biggest sore loser. I was like, and Ymir's just like, really? I love that Ymir's like, really? Are you sure? And then he tries to bite the nub and it doesn't work. And she's like, hold on. She's like, take a look around you. Ymir's like, can you stop for 2 seconds and look at what's around you? We're inside Wall Maria. We're far from the wall. We're in Titan territory. The one there, the Titan, yeah, looking with the other sitting on there. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. She's like, those two stingy bastards. They have the vertical maneuvering equipment. Reiner's wearing yours. She's like, you can't just turn into a Titan here. That's reckless. Don't do something stupid. We don't have the luxury of being able to run wild here. And Reiner's like, you can't become a Titan even if you wanted to. It's not quite as convenient as you think. I like that at this point Reiner shows like what Eren and Ymir don't maybe necessarily know. And I love that Eren says, dumbass, who believe what you have to say? And Ymir's like, well, maybe we should. Yeah, I love it. Ymir's like, why don't you shut up, Eren, so maybe they'll tell us some exposition. I forget how much I love Ymir in this episode. This episode was really great. You're coming with us to our hometown. I love they still call it hometown. They don't say Marley. They just say their hometown. This is a hive of Titans. Yep. Love it. And then we have to wait until night, which is what Erwin's banking on so that they can catch up. And Eren's trying to think of a way out. He says we can't. But he's like, but when I consider that even Reiner's been forced to rest here, does that mean the other Titans would get me if I screwed up and produced a weakened Titan? He's trying to think. He's like, yeah, I like that Eren's trying to think through this, but it's like whether he's doubting or not if Reiner is telling the truth. He's like, there's nothing I can do at this rate. What happened to everyone else, everyone in the Survey Corps? They're not coming this way, are they? If they are, they won't be able to make it back alive. I like that Eren's thinking about that. He's thinking of the others and being like, oh my God, if they come here, they're going to be in trouble. So he's like, I don't want that to happen. And then Ymir starts asking, the Titans here can't move at night. I think you know that, Ymir. And then Eren's like, wait, what do I know about her? I don't know anything about her. What is this? Why can Ymir turn into a Titan? He's like, is she on my side? He's like, I need to gather information. I'm like, good, think this through, Eren. I'll start by getting whatever I can out of them and use that to get out of the situation. But to do that for now, I need to suppress my emotions. And he's so frustrated because Eren does not want to suppress his emotions. That's freaking hilarious. Where he's like, I love it. I love it. He's like, I hate having to suppress my emotions. Where do I start? What do I ask? I like that Eren's just, he's such a grumpy cat there where Eren's like, I am an emotional being and suppressing my emotions is not what I want to do. What a diva. And meanwhile, Ymir's like, hey, give me some water, you know. This whole thing is bullshit. And that's when Reiner says we've been working our ass off since the Titans popped up. We haven't had any proper food or drink, and most of all, we haven't slept, which is true. And that's when he slips. He's like, I need to allow some rest. We can talk about promotion after that. And Bertholdt's like, oh shit, he's going back into his soldier mode. And Bertholdt's like, Reiner, hey, snap back out of it. As a soldier, I don't see what's wrong with being recommended and rewarded for it. And at that point, Eren's like, what the fudge? And Ymir's like, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, that's not what I mean. Oh my God. And he slips back to the tower. And Ymir was there. So when he starts talking about the cannon, Ymir's like, oh, what is this? Like the gears in her head are turning, right? And then Eren's just like, oh my God, that look! Oh, Eren being like, is this a joke? Oh, and Eren's like, I don't understand. And Reiner's like, did I say something wrong? And Eren's like, if you want to kill me, just come out and say it. And Ymir's like, wait a minute. What he's saying is not normal. Right, Bertholdt? What is going on? Quit being silent and actually do something. Oh my God, yes! So Ymir's calling out Bertholdt being like, you know that Reiner's got issues. You're being quiet and letting it happen. She's like, do something. This isn't right. And the thing about it is, Bertholdt isn't wrong in what he's doing because the way that Reiner acts, I know this is not it, but the way that Reiner acts, my best friend is a social worker, right? And she worked at a facility for Alzheimer's patients. That was like something she did during grad school. And she would tell me that as a social worker, whenever you're dealing with someone with Alzheimer's, it's a disease that they can't control, right? They can't control it. And it affects their brain and their memories. And so a lot of times people with advanced stages of Alzheimer's kind of regress back to, especially if they're older, they regress back into what they were when they were younger. So they kind of like, they think if they're in the facility she worked at, they thought it was a hotel. And they're like, oh, I'm going to work today. And she said that as a social worker in that situation, what you don't want to do is make them confused and agitated because they can't control where their mind is at. So the best thing to do is just let them believe what they want to believe and just go along with it because they're at an advanced stage of that disease where there's really nothing you can do. So it's like, just make them feel as comfortable as possible. And the funny thing is, Bertholdt's kind of doing that situation here. He's just letting Reiner be in the soldier persona because he doesn't want to agitate Reiner, and where they're at before, him being silent was the best thing he could do, because if he agitated Reiner and got Reiner all worked up into warrior mode, it could have blew their entire cover. But now that that's all off the table, Bertholdt does need to do something. And he's just not, because he's still like, well, if I don't do anything, maybe it'll be okay. And he's like, you're not a soldier. We're warriors. And that's when Reiner completely changes back. Yeah, that's right. Like his eyes just instantly change. And Eren's like, what is going on? And Ymir's like, I'm starting to see what's happening here. I like that Ymir tells Eren. She's like, why would the man who destroyed the wall risk his life to save Connie? You were taking contradictory actions without being aware of it. I don't know why, but you were originally a warrior whose goal was to destroy the wall. But you pretended to be a soldier for so long, you could no longer tell which was the real you. Maybe you couldn't bear the weight of your sins. So to keep your mind in balance, you unconsciously escaped into a fantasy, convincing yourself you were just a soldier who protected the wall. And it caused your mind to split and altered your memories. Judging by Bertholdt's dumbfounded expression, this isn't the first time the stories stopped fitting together. Does that sound right? That happened to someone who's overly honest personality like yours, and he said, shut your mouth. I pried too much. No, Ymir's right. Yeah. Reiner he couldn't bear what he was doing. And so he literally tried to escape into the persona of being a soldier to ease his mind from it. And it just caused his mind to split and caused him to just become this other person. And so the memories keep and especially with them trying to complete their mission, it just keeps going back and forth. And Bertholdt's like, what do I do? And so Ymir figures it out. She's like, I'm sorry, I pried too much, but I figured out what's going on. But then Eren, this is what's fascinating. Eren's like, how can you act like a victim? Why did you even listen to what we had to say that day? Tell me, Bertholdt, you stupid flunky. Don't you remember what I said? I was right in front of you. About when my mom was eaten by a titan. How she couldn't escape because a shard of the gate you kicked down landed in front of my house. You knew about that. I told you, didn't I? What did you think? What were you thinking that day? And the sad thing is, because Eren doesn't know about the basement, because he doesn't know about Marley, because he doesn't know about the rest of the world, because he's ignorant at this point of all of that, he just assumes all these things about Bertholdt and Reiner, being like, well, how can you be the victim? And once we find out their backstory, it's like, oh, you can easily see why they would think that. But Eren's so ignorant of it at this point that he doesn't understand. And Bertholdt's like, back then I felt very sorry for you. Which, what else can Bertholdt say? He's like, yeah, we had a mission and we caused you to lose your mom. And what else do you want me to say about it? You don't understand why we're doing the reasons that we're doing. He's like, I couldn't explain it to you even if I wanted to. What else do you want me to say? It's like, oh, and just, I love that moment. Oh, you can see a titan behind them in the trees where Eren's just like, oh. Eren just doesn't get it, right? And he can't get it, right? Because he doesn't understand their circumstance. You're not soldiers. You're not warriors. You're just murderers. You massacred people who've done nothing wrong. You're mass murderers. And that's so funny for Eren to say when he's a mass murderer now. When he says he's massacred people who've done nothing wrong. I'm like, Eren, the hypocrisy of this moment that he doesn't even realize, right? And Reiner's like, I know that. I don't need you to tell me that. And Eren says, then stop acting like responsible citizens worried about the state of the world. You aren't even human anymore. You're ones who turn this world into a living hell. Don't you see that, you murderers? And Bertholdt. And Reiner's like, what do you want these murderers to do? Do you want us to repent? Do you want us to apologize? Are you really going to preach to a couple of cold-blooded murders about how killing is wrong? Will that satisfy you? The Reiner and Bertholdt you know are gone. And if all you want to do is cry about it, then go ahead, keep crying. But that's something. Because at this moment, Eren doesn't do what happened at Night of the End. Night of the End, Hanji and the others are like, when Reiner gets upset, Jean questions him, but the whole group, they all bear their sins and they try to understand one another because they have no choice at this point. And Eren does not do that at all here. And you can understand why Eren doesn't. Because Eren doesn't know. Eren doesn't know the rest of the story at all. The funny thing is when Eren figures out the rest of the story and he figures out why Reiner did the thing that he did, and he confronts it with declaration of war, and he tells Reiner, he's like, no, I get it now. Like back then I didn't get it because I didn't understand the rest of the story. I was convicting you of being a murderer when I didn't realize the whole extent of everything and why you were doing the things that you were doing. And Eren's like, I get it now. Which is great character development for Eren that he understands at the moment. The thing that's so frustrating is that Eren, at that point, he understands Reiner, but going back to this line, he's like, all I can do now is work hard to make sure you two die the most painful death possible. And the thing about it is that Eren in Declaration of War isn't trying to make Reiner die the most painful death possible, but he's also not doing what happens at Night of the End, where he tries to understand Reiner and work with Reiner to stop the cycle of violence, right? To stop the cycle. Eren just decides to take the cycle. It's like, you know, the wheel is turning, and instead of trying to break the wheel and stop the wheel, Eren just decides to take control of the wheel. But that doesn't stop it from turning. That's kind of the fascinating thing that when we get to Declaration of War, we'll talk more about it. But yeah, and Bertholdt is just like, go ahead and make us die. But it's so sad because Bertholdt later on during Charge, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a few volumes, he's like, everybody just thinks that we just deserve to die and we're awful. And he's like, nobody understands what we've been through and what's going on. He's like, nobody's trying to understand us. They just label us as murderers and say they're going to kill us. Nobody's trying to understand us or reach us. And you can just see Bertholdt looking so defeated here, like, why should we even bother? You know? And that's when Ymir, she's like, that's not it, Eren. I'm begging you. I can't put my faith in you if you keep talking like some stupid kid. I'm saying there's no way I'm going along with someone worried about petty things like that. And Eren doesn't understand Ymir. But Ymir's like, Eren, you're missing the big picture. You're missing so much. You're just assuming these things and making these big declarative statements when you don't even understand what's going on. And that's when Ymir's like, what was that ape? The monkey, because she knows what it is. And they're like, what are you talking about? She's like, you don't know? Funny considering that your eyes were beaming like you were kids when you saw him earlier. Like, yeah, I like the idea that the line beaming like kids. Like, they were so excited to see him. Like, and that image of Reiner shows he was excited, where Bertholdt was like, oh, because they know Zeke from when they were kids. And Eren's like, ape, what's that? And she's like, shut up and listen. She's like, shut up! Which Eren does not like being told to shut up. The Beast Titan is the cause of the recent mess. It was what made Titans appear inside the walls, or maybe it was testing our strength. You two are trying to get to it, because if you do, you'll be able to go back home, right? Like Ymir figures it out. And Eren's like, tell me everything you know. And she's like, there's a lot going on with me too. Shut up, Eren. I can't trust you because you don't know how to you can't handle the truth. That's it. She's like, if you think that everything will be settled if you take care of these two, then you're dead wrong. And he's like, then who's our enemy? And she's like, our enemy? Well, if I had to say, it would be, and that's when they say, do you think this world has a future? If you know that much about what's going on, then think about your plans. Surely you can consider coming over to our side. She's like, and trust you? No, you can't trust me. And he's like, no, I can trust you. Your goal is to protect Krista, isn't it? Reiner sees through her in that moment. What's funny is Ymir figures it out. Ymir knows what's going on, but she is very right to not tell Eren everything, because she's like, Eren, you don't know the truth. And she's like, you can't handle the truth at this point. It will break you. And the saddest thing is, it does. Finding out the truth breaks Eren completely. And oh man, seeing it this early on, he's like, the one thing we should be able to trust each other on, this might seem like a joke to you, but can't you imagine that we both at least want to do something for Krista? Or do you think Eren's strength is more reliable than ours? And Reiner's like, I don't want to kill Krista. You know that. Do you think Eren's enough to match us or not? Like, are you going to pick the stronger side or what? And Eren's like, excuse me? And he's like, why would Ymir care about Krista? And it's like, well, Eren, you don't understand how ships work. He's never been to the ocean. He doesn't know how ships work, right? So you were thinking of using Eren to escape from here because you thought you had no chance if you let us take you. But even if you did join us, we wouldn't be able to guarantee your safety. But if we're talking about Krista, we might be able to make something work. Your tiny little life or Krista's future. And Eren's like, this world doesn't have a future. What? What's the ape? What's going on? Who's our real enemy? Who knows? Ah, yes, yes. Ah, who knows? Yep, that is the thing. That's the answer. That is. Oh man, that little twist is so good. Oh, it's so good. Because yeah, all at once, Reiner points out, I mean, so much foreshadowing. Reiner's saying there's no future for parity. You should know that. You ate Marcel. You should know there's no future. We're coming for parity to get the resources. We're going to kill everybody here. You should know that. And he's like, you have a chance to save Krista. Is it your life or Krista's that's more important? And of course, Ymir is selfless. She's going to choose Krista's life, right? And Eren doesn't understand what an ape is. He doesn't understand the Beast Titan. He doesn't understand what the world not having a future means and what's going on. But then her answer, whatever she was going to say before about who the enemy is, and she's like, who? The big question is, what would she have said if Reiner hadn't interrupted her? Because he says, who's our enemy? And she's like, our enemy? Well, if I had to say, like, what was she going to say? That's a big question. What would the answer have been? You know, she's like, she probably would have said, my guess is she would have said, the enemy is the people maybe outside the walls. Maybe the people that have brought them here that are trying to kill you. Or she'd said that maybe the enemy is ourselves. Maybe we are our own enemy. But the idea of who knows is so true because that's the thing. There are no enemies. Who knows who they are? There are no enemies but ourselves. I feel like the story that Isayama is telling is that the only enemy is yourself in not being able to work with others to contribute to stopping the cycle. Like that's really it, is what Isayama is getting at. But there's no concrete way to phrase that, right? And not encompass everything going on in the layers here. So I love that the volume ends in this moment where she chooses. Ymir's like, Eren doesn't know the truth. He's not in an emotionally stable place to accept the truth or try to rationally understand it. I can't trust Reiner or Bertholdt, but they do know what's going on more than Eren, and I could possibly use that to my advantage to save Krista. Whereas if I trust Eren, he's too unstable. He just doesn't get it. So, man, what's this? A boy wakes up from a dream to live in reality. Oh, it was all a dream. And he has this like magazine there. Wake up, Eren, we're going to be late. Oh, it's like the Attack on Titan Junior High bit, isn't it? Wow. Huh. What if the series ends with Eren just waking up and it was all a dream? I would lose my mind. Oh, yeah, leave it to us. Oh, this is from the OVA. Yeah, leave it to us. The Titan Squad arrives. God, you know what the funny part is? Connie in Tiny Titan form, we've never been able to see that. And Jean in Titan form, we've never been able to see that. Armin in Titan form, that's essentially what he looks like before he ate Bertholdt, which is kind of hilarious because that's what he looked like with the big head and the tiny body. Krista as the angel and like literally Ymir. Come on now, Isayama, come on. And then Mikasa in Titan form literally looks like Eren. So there's that. That's so funny. Wow. The slogan Dato Kyoku in Japanese is used in the Japanese Shuto Mixed Martial Arts League. Oh, submit, strike, throw, submit is used in martial arts. Nice. Nice. Okay. And there we go. So yeah. How about that, y'all? How about that? So God, this volume was really good. Really good. Honestly, this was a lot more fun. I wasn't dreading this volume, but I remember looking back on the anime, like getting to this point in the season. I love the episode of Ymir and Eren in the trees with Bertholdt and Reiner. That part, solid. Which we didn't get the full conversation that's gonna happen next volume. Yay! But I do really, really like that. I was not that I wasn't looking forward to this volume, but the aftermath of Warrior, it felt in the anime slightly anticlimactic, and then we moved on into, I feel like now reading this volume, there was a little bit of filler in the anime for that episode. Was there? I feel like there was. I feel like there was a tiny bit of filler, where the manga, it's much more streamlined. I'm like, we get to point to point to point. Whereas in the anime, it felt like there was a little bit more filler there. So that's fascinating. But yeah, how about that? Uncle Barry's like, come on. So yeah, I really liked volume 11. Good stuff. But next volume, hopefully we get into Charge. Hopefully we get into them catching up. I'm curious if we're gonna actually get into anything past Charge next volume. It's been so long since I watched season 2 that I don't remember. But man, the thematic stuff with Eren in this volume and Ymir, the saddest part about it all is that Ymir ends up dying so far removed from Eren that I really wish there could have been more Eren and Ymir moments later on. Like, not Ymir, not blonde little girl Ymir, OG Ymir, but like I wish there had been more moments with Eren and Ymir like there are here later on. And we just don't get that in the series, at least in the anime. So, it'll be fun to go back and look and see if there's any other moments past this with Eren and Ymir that we can go back to. But, because I love the dynamic of Eren and Ymir. Ymir not taking any of Eren's shit, and Eren just being like, tell me things, and her being like, no. It's such a great dynamic. I wish there was more of it. So, But yeah, I'm really excited to know your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. But next week, we'll talk about volume 12 and just get more into it, won't we? So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week to discuss more on Attack on Titan's manga. Bye.